Hi, everybody. My name is Ben, and I am a Pathy Fellow, and I'm the Pathy Fellow who gets to introduce Lauren. We also have Nyla here, who's going to moderate some discussion afterward. I'm joining you all in a log cabin in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Saugeen Anishinaabe, specifically the Chippewas of Nawash and the Chippewas of Saugeen, and they're collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. I invite you all, as we're gathered here, to take a moment to reflect on the land that you're on and who has been the ancestral and present stewards of that land. So we're here today for Lauren's presentation on her Pathy Fellowship project, Proud Pairs, and this is part of a series of presentations from this year's Pathy Fellowship cohort. If you're joining us on Zoom, welcome. Feel free to just mute yourself as you come in. We're also streaming live to Facebook, and we're recording this talk for the Pathy Fellowship YouTube page later. If you'd like captions, we found that the automatic captioning on Facebook Live is pretty good, so consider joining us there. One other housekeeping note, Lauren's in a place where there's a little bit of construction drilling going on, so we'll see if they wish to join us and provide some percussion to her rousing performance. So, as heard on CBC Morning and catch her on Eastlink TV sometime in June if you're subscribed, which I am not, but I'm seriously considering getting a subscription for. This is Lauren. She's received her Bachelor of Science with joint honors in biology and psychology from StFX University. Originally from Burlington, Ontario, Lauren has lifelong ties to Nova Scotia and chose Halifax to launch her fellowship project in. After her own experience with 2SLGBTQ plus mentorship, Lauren has dedicated the past year to establishing Proud Pairs, a one-on-one mentorship program connecting 2SLGBTQ plus youth ages 15 to 23 with 2SLGBTQ plus adults ages 24 and up. The program aims to give real-life representation to queer and transgender youth to foster a generation of confident, secure, and thriving individuals. And through this mentor-mentee relationship, youth have the opportunity to seek advice, interact with a positive 2SLGBTQ plus role model, and have a supportive adult in their life. In addition to one-on-one mentorship, Proud Pairs runs group programming with all mentors and mentees to build intergenerational 2SLGBTQ plus community in Halifax. So in what follows, Lauren is going to walk us through her experience leading Proud Pairs, and be advised, this gal holds space. We are lucky to share this one with her. And if you have any questions or affirmations throughout the presentation, we invite you to send them through whatever chat you're watching us on, and Nyla will field them to Lauren at the end. I'm lucky to call Lauren a friend. You know that feeling you get when you're trying to share something that you haven't really talked about very much before, or it's kind of uncomfortable or awkward or hard or anxious? Well, Lauren seems to soften reality in a way that doesn't take away from reality, but just makes it gentler, more full of smile, laughter. She's done that for me a number of times when we've gotten to share space together. She keeps it real, she keeps it gentle, and it seems like she's put that gift to good use this year and shared it with her community in a way that's rippled far beyond her. So to those of you that are attending from Lauren's family of friends and loved ones, big warm hello. If you've any part to play in the formation of this sunbeam that is Lauren, I personally offer my deep appreciation. And I'll pass it off to you, Lauren, for your humor and warmth to light up this space as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Ben. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to share what I've been up to in the past year. And this was totally unintentional, but today, May 17th, is International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersexism, and Transphobia. So what a day to talk about 2SLGBTQ topics. So first, I'd like to introduce you to the 2SLGBTQ plus community and share what I love about it. We are courageous and resilient. We challenge norms, rewrite cultural scripts, and serve as an example of what living authentically looks like. My favorite thing about us has to be that we take the sentiment, friends are the family we choose, very seriously. And we curate our social networks to include individuals who can fill the roles of support, teaching, comfort, and mentorship to help us navigate a heteronormative and cisnormative world that isn't always kind to sexual and gender diversity. So in short, we are exceptionally good at forming connections, myself included. So here's me at 12 years old. I'm the one on the left. And about 1 month after this picture was taken, I would have found out that I was a part of this lovely community. But at the time, I didn't think it was all that lovely. My teen years were filled with a lot of struggle with my identity. I worried that my friends would find out and I'd be ostracized. I didn't feel like I had anyone I could confide in. And I also had some negative experiences coming out to my family at 16. And the aftermath left me feeling like there was no happy future out there for me. Like I just couldn't envision a world where I could be happy and fulfilled and successful as a gay person. But luckily, things started to turn around in my second year of university when I took a social psychology course taught by Dr. Karen Blair at StFX. And she has her own 2SLGBTQ plus psychology lab. So I got involved in her lab as a research assistant. I ended up taking 4 courses with her. I took a course with her wife, Dr. Ashley Hoskin, and I even dog sat for their 3 adorable dogs. And over the years, we developed this mentoring relationship where I could go to them for advice. We shared our experiences navigating life as queer women. And I think what the biggest takeaway from this relationship was that they served as living, breathing proof that things do get better and it is possible to be gay and happy and fulfilled. So this experience inspired the idea for Proud Pairs and made me want to give back to other queer youth who also could have the opportunity to be a mentor. Because again, we are hardwired for connection, but sometimes we just need a little help in finding those connections. I just got lucky. So fast forward to today, and we have 24 participants. We grew from a team of 1 to a team of 7 and have plans to continue the program past the Pathy Fellowship. So I would love to share how we got there. I'll start with my theory of change. So in order to have a mentorship program, you need a program coordinator, which is the role that I took on. I also hired someone to facilitate our mentor and mentee orientation and training sessions. And of course, you need participants, you need mentors and mentees. So there were some advertising and recruitment strategies that got thrown into the mix there. So in addition to the one-on-one mentorship component of Proud Pairs, we also do group programming with all mentors and mentees. And this is in hopes of facilitating an intergenerational community in Halifax. Because often in the 2SLGBTQ plus community, these intergenerational communities are a bit hard to find. And ultimately, I wanted participants to walk away feeling like they made friends and connections, feeling more connected to the queer community, feeling more comfortable in their own identity, and overall, just feeling more confident with navigating life as 2SLGBTQ, walking away with improved mental well-being and able to envision that future success. So in terms of the timeline, we started off in, I guess, July of last year. And this started with consultation with pre-existing 2SLGBTQ youth organizations in the province. So I met with a few of these organizations, including the Youth Project and the McPhee Center for Creative Learning. And I pitched the idea to them, and they were tremendously helpful in being a soundboard and providing their own experiences with working with 2SLGBTQ plus youth. These early days were also filled with a lot of materials development because we were largely starting from the ground up. So had to build a website, an Instagram page, posters, sign-up forms, consent forms, you name it. And when we had things built up enough, started advertising. So I'd say the bulk of where participants found out about Proud Pairs was on Instagram. I shared the news on my personal Instagram, and my friends and cohort are just so amazing. And it was shared far and wide. And within the first hour, we already had our first mentor application. In addition to Instagram and other social media outlets, I pounded the pavement, put up posters around the Halifax Regional Municipality, or the HRM. I emailed GSA coordinators, or Gender and Sexuality Alliance coordinators at high schools across the HRM. And we got some good responses. In total, we had 50 applications from prospective participants. And decided to take on, or not decided to take on, but it turned out that we had 12 pairs in total, or 24 participants. So in order to onboard these mentors and mentees, there was a sign-up form involved, and the process looked a bit different for mentors and mentees. So for the mentees, they filled out a form online with some information about themselves, and optionally, if they would like to disclose their sexual orientation, gender identity, race, and hobbies and interests, as well as how important was it to them to be matched with someone with a similar identity or similar set of hobbies. So for example, we had some non-binary youth who would really like to be matched with non-binary adults. So we tried to make that happen as much as possible. For the mentors, there was also an interview process, a criminal record check, and a character reference check. So once we had our participants, we moved into training. So I hired someone to facilitate and design a training curriculum. And this consisted of information about active listening and how to set and maintain boundaries with your mentor and mentee. What are appropriate topics to talk about? And after training, mentorship commenced. So these mentorships were a very participant-led space where both the mentor and mentee were jointly involved in deciding what they would like to do with their time, what they would like to both get out and put into the program. And along the way, I hosted some bi-monthly check-ins individually with participants, just to make sure everything was going all right and they were happy and everyone was feeling safe and comfortable in the relationship. So that's the bulk of what being a program coordinator looks like, I guess. So these last few months have been really focused on sustainability. I started the fellowship thinking that maybe I would run this for a year, see how it goes, and maybe pass it off to another youth organization to continue this work. But honestly, I have felt more and more connected to this work every day, and I would love to continue as we are now and also expand. So I was interviewed a few months ago, and afterwards, two individuals contacted me, Courtney, who has a background in public relations, and Kieran, who has their MBA and has experience working with nonprofit organizations. So we formed this trio that works to advance proud pairs and secure partnerships and additional funding. So I'm very happy to report that we have formed a partnership with Engage Nova Scotia, and they will be providing $10,000 in funding and community building resources through their Sustainable Development Goals partnership opportunity. And outside of this, we're actively searching for additional partnerships to continue this work, ultimately with the goal of bringing the transformative power of mentorship to more 2SLGBTQ+ youth in the HRM and beyond. So that's kind of like a big picture, zoomed out view of Proud Pairs, but I would love to introduce you to our mentors and mentees. So who's joining? Why are they joining? What are they doing within their pairs? What are we doing as a group? And what impact has this been having so far? So we had 50 total applications, 35 of which were from mentors and 15 from mentees. And of those 15, 12 decided to go on with the onboarding process. So in the end, we had 12 pairs or 24 participants. And the reasons for joining were varied. There were some central themes throughout. For mentors, a big theme was wanting to be the representation that they wish they had when they were younger, or conversely, having queer mentors early in life from a young age and wanting to do the same for others. There were teachers who witnessed homophobia and transphobia in the classroom and wanted to make Halifax a safer space for queer youth. Someone who wanted to use his experience as a gay immigrant to help others. Someone who is in a stable long-term relationship and felt like that might be helpful for youth to see. And in someone's own words, our queer youth are our futures, and I believe I can learn as much from them, if not more, than they can learn from me. And an honorable mention goes to the person who said, I want to be a mentor to get the satisfaction of stepping into my role as spry elder queer. And this person is 30. Oh, sorry. And then for mentees, similar themes included wanting to meet new people, getting involved in the community, questioning their gender and wanting someone to talk it through with without judgment, gaining confidence in their identity, insight into queer dating, making new friends, and having fun. And in someone's own words, I want to become more confident and comfortable with my own identity so that one day I become capable enough to mentor people like me. There is one mentee in particular I'd love to share the story of. So this mentee has an extremely supportive mother, and since her son came out as transgender, she has been getting lots of professional support around Halifax. But the mother also included proud pairs in this network of support because despite all of the professional support, she felt he was missing a friend, just that real life representation, an everyday trans guy to talk to. So in these pairings, again, very participant led, so people decide what they want to do. And so far, some activities that have come up include going bowling and thrift shopping, meeting up with another pair and going to the board game cafe, going to a queer cafe in Halifax and chatting over the experience of discovering their identity later in life, going rock climbing. A mentor went to go see a mentee's high school play, meeting every Sunday over Zoom just to chat. There was a mentor who helped his mentee find queer-friendly housing because he's relatively new to Canada. And my favorite, although this didn't happen, it was just a suggestion for a future meetup, but it was walking dogs at the SPCA, which is just so smart. But through these activities in the check-ins with participants, it really became evident that this mentorship was bi-directional. It's not just a mentor imparting wisdom on a mentee, it's a two-way street. So for our group activities, our first one was rock climbing. So there was a community member who reached out very early on and said that they really wanted to be a mentor, but just didn't have the personal capacity to do so at this time. So they instead volunteered their space. They worked for Decathlon Dartmouth and facilitated a rock climbing night for us. And that was just so much fun. And the mom of our youngest mentee, who I mentioned, she showed up and made a point to bring Timbits with rainbow sprinkles for everyone, and everyone's heart just about melted. So, and then for our second meetup, we went bowling. And through witnessing these group activities, I realized that I was wrong about mentorship being bidirectional. It's actually multi-directional. So mentors are interacting with mentors, mentees with mentees, mentors and mentees outside of their pairs, and really creating this beautiful space where people can connect and find support. And mentors have now have their own group chat where they can kind of like mentor each other and provide support about how to show up the best for their mentees. So I am really lucky that my own mentors are academics and conduct research on 2SLGBTQ+ communities. And basically the second after I told Karen and Ashley that I got the Pathy Fellowship, they were like, we have to run a research study on this. So the primary component of my evaluation plan is an academic study evaluating the effectiveness of 2SLGBTQ+ mentorship in boosting mental health, community connectedness, and perceived social support. And the way we do this is by administering a survey towards the beginning of mentorship and asking questions about participants' mental health, if they've had queer role models in the past, how they feel about their own identity, how connected they feel to the broader queer community, and then administering a very similar follow-up survey months down the line once they've been in their mentorships for a while. Now, this follow-up survey is set to be released in a few months' time, so I don't have the data to share with you today, but I did administer a brief version of the survey just to see where folks were at come the end of my fellowship. So here are some of the results. So when I asked participants about how proud pairs made them feel, if they feel more comfortable with their 2SLGBTQ identity, if this experience has positively impacted their mental health, if they feel more confident in navigating life as a sexual or gender minority. And as you can see here, we're hovering around the 4.1 to 5 to 4.5 out of 5. So that means that participants are agreeing or strongly agreeing with these statements here. So at the bottom, I feel that my mentor and mentee or mentee and I have built a lasting friendship. That was one of the lower figures at 3.5 out of 5. And this really got me thinking about just the nature of human connection. And it doesn't matter if it's a mentorship or friendship or anything. It really goes to show that it takes time to build these relationships of trust and vulnerability. Mentorships got underway in about January, so we're about 4-ish months in. So I think that if given some more time, I wonder if that number will increase. But also it got me thinking about the way that I match people. So it's been a primarily identity-based match and matching people, again, with my example of I'm a non-binary youth who wants to be matched with a non-binary adult. But it maybe makes me think about doing a personality-based match and administering a personality questionnaire and seeing how that impacts the strength and quality of these relationships. And lastly, I think it goes to show that sometimes a friendship doesn't have to be long-lasting or lifelong to be impactful. And the relationship can serve its purpose and they'll move on, and that's totally okay. And I'd love to share an anecdote from like a free form, enter your own experience with proud pairs below. So one mentee said, sorry, I can't see my own screen here. Oh my gosh, my mentor has helped me so much just by being a friend first and foremost. But second of all, they have helped me socialize more and push myself to get out of my comfort zone by being a role model and someone I look up to. They have also made me feel so confident and inspired by my 2SLGBTQ+ identity that I've joined so many more pride initiatives and opportunities. I had zero involvement before, and I now hope to make participating in queer committees and events part of my life forever. Proud Pairs has really had an impact on my life in such a positive way, and I am so grateful for this opportunity. This program has helped me meet so many new people, and the love and support from everyone is so felt. I truly look up to my mentor and want to have a long-lasting relationship with them, or friendship with them. My mentor has superpowers, I swear, because they're so inspiring and I want to be just like them. So, as you can imagine, a lot of happy tears were cried after I read this. And I always said that going into this, I would consider success to be helping one person. So I think we can check that box off and let's do more. Let's keep going. So this year has been incredible in the amount of personal and professional growth that has taken place. So I'd love to share some of the challenges as well as my key takeaway or key learning and point of growth. So in terms of the challenges, you might remember at the start of my presentation, I mentioned that we had a big imbalance in the number of mentors and mentees who applied. So we were looking at 35 mentors and 15 mentees. Now, number one, I think that my recruitment strategies might have had something to do with it. Again, the bulk of participants were recruited over or reached via Instagram. And my own personal network, of course, is going to consist of more adults than youth, especially high school aged youth. So just a lesson for next time in terms of diversifying the places where we reach youth. Another possible theory there proposed by a mentor is that sometimes it might take a mentor to get you to realize the value of mentorship. So for youth, they might not have naturally had mentors in their life, or maybe they haven't been aware of it so far. But mentors, on the other hand, maybe they've naturally acquired mentors throughout their schooling or in the workplace, and they understand the value of mentorship, and they understand what they can provide by being a mentor. So again, something to consider the next time that we try to get some more mentors and mentees in the program. Another major challenge, I think this is the biggest challenge, was getting started. So it was really, really daunting in the beginning to start Proud Pairs. I just moved to Halifax from Antigonish like a week before, or yeah, a couple weeks before the fellowship started. And I didn't feel very well connected in the community at that point. But the most important factor in helping me overcome the inertia and getting started, which leads into my biggest learning, was forming connections with people and developing these relationships in community. So each person I reached out to, it was just like the network opened up so much, and each person I talked to, things got easier and things got done. So that is just my biggest takeaway from the fellowship, is the power of forming relationships. And something that was emphasized near the beginning of the fellowship is that relationships are the work. And I resonated with this from an intellectual standpoint. And I thought, of course, like, I guess that makes sense. But after the fellowship, this takes on a whole new meaning because I lived it. I understand how transformative it is to have so many people in your corner helping you work towards your goals. Just the ripple effect of community change has absolutely blown me away. I mean, let's go back to the origins. Karen and Ashley inspired me to bring this experience to other youth, and they've had their own mentors as well. And I have this idea, but how do I bring this into the world? And the Pathy Foundation Fellowship and my cohort has been absolutely essential in getting things off the ground, as well as the consultations with the various youth organizations in those early days and beyond. I had a friend who connected me to Aaron, who ran the training modules. Karen had connections with StFX Service Learning, and I was able to get help from 2 service learning students from StFX with the administrative side of things. So before you know it, this is kind of ready to go. We're ready to launch. And all of a sudden, now there's 24 participants here. And the mentors are influencing the mentees, mentors and mentors, mentees and mentees. All of these multi-directional relationships are being formed, and the program's going well. So Erin reaches out to her friend who works at CBC, and Courtney and Kieran get into the picture. And we form these partnerships that can help us bring mentorship to more 2SLGBTQ+ youth. And it's just phenomenal. Like, all of these connections combine in a symphony of expertise, knowledge, and experience sharing that makes the world a little brighter for 2SLGBTQ+ youth. And I can't help but wonder, who will they go on to mentor? Who's next in this mentorship and support lineage? And I'll leave you with the same question. Who will you inspire next? And what changes can you make in your community just by virtue of connection? And with that, I'd like to thank everyone who was involved in that frantic web and beyond. That didn't even scratch the surface of the people who have contributed to Proud Pairs. I'm so happy and thankful to everyone who has made this a reality. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Wow, amazing, Lauren. That was such a phenomenal presentation. And thank you so much for sharing all your learnings. And I'm really excited to moderate this Q&A period. So hi, everyone. My name is Nyla. I'm having some tech issues today, so I'll be keeping my camera off, but Ben is kind enough to field some questions in. Yeah, I'll be moderating this session. So first off, actually, Lauren, it's such a huge feat to create and implement a functional and impactful program like this from scratch. So congratulations on your significant efforts and success. I'm wondering what elements of your project management did you find most enjoyable and most challenging as you build this project from the ground up?
The most enjoyable parts, well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. And that means a lot from someone who has started her own mentorship program. So it means so much. Thank you so much, Nyla. The most enjoyable part has got to be, again, those relationships. Like my absolute favorite part is getting to check in with participants, learn about how their mentorships are going, what they're learning from each other, what they're learning about themselves. And it's just very cool to witness those small transformations in people.
Yeah, and I imagine, you know, being there and kind of, I know you kind of mentioned at the start, it being a challenge and like trying to figure it all and come together. And then finally, when you see the magic happen and you see these relationships form and you hear about the impact, how did that make you feel when you first kind of saw that the success of your seed?
Yeah, so I have mentees text me when they leave and come back from their meetups just to make sure everyone is staying safe and getting home on time. And I got a text from the first mentor-mentee pair who decided to meet up. And when I got that text, it was just simple. It was like, hey, we're going skating, be back at 9:30. Like, I just cried. It was so incredible to finally have this thing that's been like living up here for so long and taking so long to get off the ground. It was just incredible to see that materialize in this short text of we're going skating.
Yeah, wow, amazing. Well, I see that we have lots of people showing their love for you in the chat. Winter actually shares that, says, thank you for having me in here. This is great work, Lauren. The benefits of this are so apparent. I had the opportunity to work with a physical trainer who was queer and 59, myself 25 at that time. While informal, we were mentoring each other, and that intergenerational connection did so much for each of us without us knowing it would, or that we needed it. So glad you found partners to carry this forward. Another affirmation that came in for you is by Mary Lou. Say, Lauren, so proud of you and of all the hard work and creativity you put into Proud Pairs. We know that it is the beginning of many important and rewarding ventures on your part. Count us in the group of people you have inspired, and love from your proud aunt and uncle, Mary Lou and Andy.
Oh, that's so nice.
How does that make you feel to get that affirmation from your family?
Oh, just so amazing. I mean, Mary Lou and Andy, hello, have also been just instrumental on this journey as well. So like just the family support means the world to me. Thank you so much. And happy to hear that I have inspired you too. I don't know how, but that's pretty cool because they inspire me every day.
Great. We had one more question come in from Jess, who says, why is it important that this is an intergenerational space? And what does your model offer to other programs?
Yeah, so I think intergenerational spaces are extraordinarily important in the 2SLGBTQ plus community because the transmission of knowledge that typically occurs between generations often happens within the family. So parents or aunts or uncles, so on, pass down information about navigating life, family history, information about culture, family traditions. All of that is passed down through the family. But in terms of queer folks, I mean, it's becoming much more common nowadays to have these things passed down through a family unit. It doesn't operate the same. We're typically raised in families headed by cisgender and heterosexual parents. And even if they're the most supportive parents in the world, there is that element of they lack the lived experience in order to most effectively pass down that knowledge between or to the next generation. So I think by having these spaces, we just gain so much about how to show up in our own lives and how to navigate like these difficult aspects of being queer or transgender. It's something that's tough, especially with the AIDS crisis in the 80s and beyond. We've lost essentially a generation of queer men who can't provide that mentorship for future generations. So just really important to get people of different ages and experiences in the same place.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. And you know, you touch on this point of through that experience, there has been moments where there's been people that have been lost, and how can we continue this knowledge transfer and help the new generation feel their most authentic self and feel that they belong in this space, even if they were nurtured by cisgendered folks, right? So amazing. We have another question here from Ben, and Ben says, tell me more about your group meetups. How did it feel to have you folks all together?
Oh, just incredible. Even when we met on Zoom for our training sessions, there was just a warm feeling in the air. Like we were all strangers at that point, but it was kind of like, I feel like we're not going to be strangers very soon. And at rock climbing, it was just so wonderful to see people in person and just get to know everyone in person, because there is a certain interpersonal magic. I learned that term from one of the youth community organizations that I consulted very early on, is that these in-person spaces are just so vital for creating lasting connections through this interpersonal magic. So cool to like have a group of very supportive and empathetic and resilient and vulnerable people in one space.
Wow, amazing. It sounds so beautiful, that feeling to be in that space. And I'm kind of thinking, and it's beautiful that you were able to bring everybody together in that one space. So in the future, are you ever hoping to like expand the space further away from just in person? And like, what are your thoughts around that? Are you ever going to, you know, make this a Canada-wide mentorship program?
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly would love to expand this past the HRM. And whether that be through online programming, even to make it more accessible to folks who would feel more comfortable or just need that online space instead of in person. Of course, there's just so much value there. Would love to expand to the rest of the province. That would be a dream. even further, like if this could be an Atlantic Canada-wide thing with people zooming in from Nova Scotia to their mentor in Newfoundland, that would just be absolutely incredible. And who knows, maybe if we're dreaming really big, maybe I'll follow in your footsteps, Nyla, and make this Canada-wide. We'll get people from all over.
Awesome. And speaking of big vision, we actually have Sarah who says, Lauren, you're amazing and should be so proud of what you've created. This is such incredible work, and I know how needed and important this work is everywhere. What is your big vision for Proud Pairs? And do you have any plans long-term to expand to other locations? So she kind of is asking, similar to the provinces, but do you have another vision apart from that? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I think the online mentorship is something I'm really interested in pursuing because, again, we can make it more accessible, whether that's to access, to provide mentorship to disabled folks who might have trouble meeting in public places, or maybe you are very closeted and you're not feeling comfortable meeting in person with your mentor. I think that online programming just opens so many doors and also getting to close the distance physically. So maybe your perfect mentor match is up in Cape Breton, but you're in the HRM. Of course, a 4-hour drive is not feasible. So definitely something I'm looking to explore. Also with this partnership through Engage Nova Scotia. Part of our partnership is hiring a BIPOC consultant to help make the program more inclusive and include more diverse voices in the creation and execution of the program.
Wow. Okay. So speaking of that, and that's really great because there's definitely, from what I've heard, there's definitely a big space that's needed, especially in the BIPOC community, for folks who typically come from, like immigrant and backgrounds where they don't have those role models. So I guess my question to you here is, what are your thoughts on addressing and welcoming people into your program who aren't comfortable, who aren't out of the closet yet, who might be really in need of a program like this? What are your thoughts on reaching that demographic, and what obstacles do you foresee yourself kind of coming across in order to kind of overcome that? Right.
Well, that was a big challenge in the beginning. I had this kind of utopian idea of like accessing the most closeted of closeted youth who can't even get their parents to sign a consent form. But just through consultation with some youth organizations, that I didn't think at this stage that it was feasible to bypass factors like parental consent for the under teens. So that's an aspect of the program that I would really love to improve, working with consultants and through our partnership with Engage Nova Scotia going forward, is how do we reach those people who cannot be seen publicly accessing a service like Proud Pair. So definitely an area that we're hoping to improve going forward.
Yeah, and we actually had Julian, who kind of asked a similar question, and they say, wow, Lauren, such amazing work. Your mapping of all the relationships clearly show that you're building genuine community. And so their question kind of revolved around the diverse makeup of participants in terms of rural versus urban areas of the HRM, and what, if any, difference that might have made in terms of the program's impact. Yeah.
So primarily urban. The majority of participants were living in Halifax, and some from Dartmouth, some from Bedford, Lower Sackville. So mostly concentrated within the urban areas. A handful of participants from rural areas, Chester Basin, one that I can't remember the name of, and actually one from rural New Brunswick. It was just how it worked out was a mentee with it was an asexual mentee who wanted to be matched with an asexual mentor, and this mentor just happened to be living in New Brunswick, so that was of course an online mentorship. That is also something I'm very interested in going forward, and hopefully if we do get the chance to expand to the rest of Nova Scotia, I would love to reach rural participants. Just based on my own experience living in Antigonish for 4 years while I attended StFX, I have a very soft spot in my heart for rural queer youth. Of course, my experience is so much different than someone who's been born and raised in a town of a couple thousand, but really excited to try to bring access to these kinds of programs in areas where access is more limited compared to Halifax.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's always the hardest to try to reach those youth, and they are sometimes often the ones who need it the most because they've not had any of those role models and the access to resources, as you say. So I'm really excited to see how the next few years shape up for you, Lauren, and this program and the impact it's going to have all across Canada. We have another affirmation that came in from Jenny. Thank you, Lauren. I can't help but to think about the many friends and family I have that would have benefited from something like this during their youth and young adulthood. The benefits are so clear. Thank you for sharing your work with us.
Oh, thank you so much. These affirmations are so sweet.
Yes, they're pouring in. And we just keep getting questions. So I'm just going to keep continuing our discussion here. Tell us more about some of your learnings or aha moments this year.
Great question. So many. I feel like every day there was something new to learn. I really do feel like my comfort zone has just expanded like beyond belief. I mean, in the beginning, I was freaked out by sending emails. Like to meet with someone was like I gotta schedule half my day to draft this email and then work up the courage to send it. But now I'm just feeling a lot more confident in interacting with people in a business kind of relationship in that professional context. Also just so much more excited about asking for help, and again, making these connections with people to help drive the mission forward. So yeah, I'd say I just feel so much more confident. Like, it's just really incredible. There's just so much professional and personal growth that came out of it.
Okay, so I guess like another question I have for you is, will you be taking a mentee next year? And are you ready to step into that role of a spry queer elder now that, you feel so confident about, you're talking about your journey of growth from drafting these emails for hours to now being able to do that so confidently, like how do you feel in terms of your confidence and growth, and will you take on that mentee next year?
Maybe not next year, maybe ask me again in a few years. I'm comfortable still being in the role of mentee, but I will say that throughout my check-ins, there have been a few points where mentees have confided in me or like asked for advice. So that was kind of cool to be on the other side of things and to step into that role for 30 minutes. But yeah, I think I'm going to need a few more years of wisdom under my belt before I can sign up as a mentor.
I don't know if I fully believe that. I know, and I've seen your work and just your empathy and kindness, Lauren. I truly believe that if you were to take on a mentee today, and and as you said in your presentation, it's a lot also just about friendship, right? Like the code that you shared. So I know that there is young or old, I don't know, youth waiting to be mentored by you, and it'll be a phenomenal relationship. So tell me a bit more about that mentor who offered you, the rock climbing group session just because, they didn't have the capacity. How did that relationship kind of form? And what other kinds of support did you receive from the broader community? And do you see any other potential long-term partnerships? I know you touched a little bit on certain partners, but I'm just wondering how you facilitated that conversation.
Yeah, so actually, this is something that I love about the queer community is people are so willing to help. People jump in a lot of the time when people are getting things off the ground or are struggling and need help, or they're thriving and they want to provide affirmations. So I was contacted by Haley, the person who works at Decathlon Dartmouth, and said, like I just absolutely love what you're doing here, and I don't have the time in my personal schedule to become a mentor, but I do have a bouldering wall that I can offer. So yeah, it was very lucky. I mean, luck has been a huge element in this whole journey. In terms of other community support, I've had so many messages come in from people who say that I just wish that I had this when I was younger. Life could have looked a lot differently could have looked a lot different if I had this, if I stumbled across this when I was 19, or I didn't hear the word transgender until I was 25, and that could have saved me a lot of hardship if I had known. So just the words of support and storytelling that's gone on throughout this whole process is honestly just so heartbreaking and inspiring to keep us pushing forward there. Also just hoping to establish more connections with local organizations in the next year and see what can come from those. But so far people have been just so generous in spreading the word and just really helping in any way they can.
Yeah, and I think this is so powerful. It kind of goes back to your very initial start to your presentation where you said, we take these, I can't remember how you worded it, but essentially that there are your friends or your family in this community, and giving back and being generous and like offering just shows the power in this community. And going back to a point earlier, Ben says, you, Lauren, are my mentor. So the love there. So we're going to start wrapping up very soon, but I thought it would be nice for you to share a little bit more about what was it like with your mentor, Karen, this year. I know you talked a little bit about the study and how that impacted, but what was your experience like this year, particularly while you ran this project?
Yeah, Karen and Ashley now are the academic advisors for Proud Parents, and again, helping get this study off the ground and later with data analysis, all that fun stuff. So really fortunate to have their support in that regard, but also I can shoot them a message at literally any time, and they're always there for support, to brainstorm, for me to vent. So it's really just the same old mentorship dynamic we had before, with me asking for support, and I try to give back in any way I can too. But it's just like so nice, so comforting to know that they are in my corner.
Oh, that's the best, having your mentor there for you. And yeah, just having that feeling helps you get through so much. So all right, Lauren, so we're going to wrap up. This has been an amazing discussion. Thank you so much for your questions. I'm gonna leave with one last question here. For those listening in the audience, how can they follow Proud Pairs and get involved next session and help you in any way, or how can they be part of this community?
Yeah, hoping to onboard new mentors and mentees this fall. So that opportunity will be open towards the end of this year. But in the meantime, visit proudpairs.com. You can follow us on Instagram at proudpairs. And if you want to get in touch by email, info@proudpairs.com.
Amazing. Awesome, Lauren. So congrats again for such a brilliant and impactful year. And I want to take this time to thank the audience for attending and showing your love and asking your questions to Lauren, and being part of this discussion. And if you are interested to go back and watch this again, because I am, and I'm going to go watch it again, you can find a recording on the Pathy Fellowship YouTube page, where it will be posted a little bit later. So yeah, just know that. And we are going to continue the rest of our fellowship presentations throughout the course of this week, with Ben coming up next at 3 p.m. EST or 4 p.m. Atlantic. So I hope that you'll all join us for that session just shortly this afternoon. So until then, take care and thank you again.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everyone.